This is the Podcast Express, and we're talking to whoever's listening out there. Welcome to 5 Minutes of Trouble, the only podcast on the internet that discusses the John Carpenter film Big Trouble in Little China 5 minutes at a time. I'm Josh Horowitz from the Wing Kong Exchange.
And I am your co-host and faithful passenger, Brett Stillo.
And I am kind of tagging along on the back of the truck, Pete Mummert from the Indiana Jones Minute.
Yes, Pete, welcome back. You are our first returning champion to
Awesome.
5 Minutes of Trouble. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me back. I'm excited.
You are our guiding spirit. You are our mentor. I think, don't want to embarrass you, but I think we have mentioned you on every episode since your appearance in episode 3. That is the influence you have.
There's always been something that's come up then, yeah.
I would like to announce we are changing the name of the show to 5 Mummerts of Trouble.
I'm sort of like the low pan of the show. I just keep kind of popping up there.
That's right.
No, actually, no, you do. You're kind of like the Ark, or Harry Lime in The Third Man, because you're not always around, but we're always talking about you.
I like the Harry Lime.
Yeah, you're Harry Lime. Sorts, but I don't know. I'm already. We're less than 5 minutes into it. I'm already tangenting. So, yeah, if you want to be our low pan, you can be our low pan. This is the episode to be low pan. So,
absolutely, this is the episode to be low pan. We are in minutes 40 through 45 of Big Trouble in Little China. These minutes start with Jack on the receiving end of Rain's Nerf ball, and they end with Jack and Wang wheeled into a round prison with skeletons. And this is going to be the minutes where we do introduce Mr. David Lopan in his, I guess you would call it his human form. Though the question is, is he truly human, or is he a ghost and that's just his kind of old man ghost form? I guess we can talk about that a little bit when that comes up.
Absolutely.
But let's go in order here. We're actually starting back where we were from the last minute. We are in what the script describes as the hell of the River of Ashes. And Rain is there, and he's starting off with his Nerf ball blowing trick. And when I first saw this as a kid, I mean, I mentioned it's a Nerf ball. I mean, I grew up at a time when everybody had one of those little orange Nerf balls, and they would set up a little basketball net over their doorway. You just kind of throw it at that one. So when I saw this, I'm looking at those, and I'm like, yeah, he's being hit with these sort of red Nerf ball things.
Yeah, that was probably that's a good point. That was probably a joke that was a little more, maybe shall we say, relevant in 1986, because I also remember Super Balls, which I think have probably been taken off the market because they had toxic chemicals in them or something like that. I guess that was the joke: is look, it's a little Super Ball or a clown nose, and it takes the weight out of Jack.
Yeah, I kept thinking it was like those, when you're a kid and you buy like My First Magic kit, and they have those red foam balls in them that you kind of stuff into that one thing where you keep taking ball out of ball out. And so
yeah. But in the hands of a storm, it becomes a weapon. It becomes a device of torment.
So which hell is this? Is this the second we've seen, or is this the first? I can't remember.
This is, I mean, they've mentioned quite a few already. It's called in the script the Hell of the River of Ashes. They never really mention anything like that. We've seen the Hell of the Upside Down Sinners. We've had the Hell of Boiling Oil. Well, then there was what the hell is Gracie Law doing here? And then there's going to be a few more. I guess Lopan takes these hells very seriously, and so he sets up areas inside the Wing Kong to kind of look like these traditional hells.
Well, I'm kind of working on a theory here. Do we know these aren't the actual hells?
Oh,
because I'm sort of interested in the religion and mythology behind all, like especially these 5 minutes. There's so much packed into these. But I think you mentioned on the show, even Josh, that there are like traditionally 18 Chinese hells, and when you look, I think it's called DU, and when you look at them in history, it's kind of, they're described as a subterranean maze of chambers and rooms, and each chamber and room is a different hell. And it was sort of the portal between the life and the afterlife. And I'm wondering, is maybe the Wing Kong Exchange building, is that actually the portal between the living world and the dead world?
Huh.
Ooh.
But and everybody was required to go. It wasn't like hell wasn't just for bad people. It was everybody who died had to go there to atone for what they did in this life before they could be reincarnated.
Yeah, that's right. But
So
you were talking about that before, how you have to sort of clock in and out.
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Now this is where we have to call Desmond Miller.
Yeah, he was the one who was talking about
Who's
that. Yeah.
our Chinese hell expert. So
Interesting. Maybe it is. I mean, there's certainly lots of magic stuff going on. Maybe the Wing Kong is a portal to the underworld. I mean, they're literally going down in that elevator,
Mhm.
and who knows how far down they're going. I mean, there's a couple of buttons, but maybe it's a portal.
yeah,
Interesting.
it's interesting. Yeah, because the fact that Jack and Wang are blindfolded often in this scene and the next, it's because as I was reviewing the minutes, I thought to myself, why do you need to have that precaution? You're
Yeah.
underground, you're in a maze. Unless it's just to add to their torment and confusion and anxiety of what's going to happen next.
And so much of this movie is about eyes. Like I was kind of joking about Lo Pan being Hannibal Chu from Blade Runner making the eyes, but in reality, there's so much in this movie that's about eyes. And even like from them wearing blindfolds to eyes pop up again and again and again, and seeing and looking into things. I think it's interesting just how much of this movie is about eyes and seeing.
That's true. You could probably put together a whole list of that. I mean, everything from green eyes to eventually we're going to get to the Guardian, who is nothing but eyes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the eyes have it.
This could also be the hell of tormentors with great hair.
Yes.
I think we've talked a little about Peter Kwong, and I believe he had done some modeling, and that when he takes off his hat there, it just shows, and he kind of he kind of does like a little hair conditioner hair shake. So
yes, I commented in my notes that this is his Pantene moment, complete with the chimes in the music soundtrack. Yeah,
I have Pantene commercial in my notes.
Yes,
so that's awesome.
Do they even make Pantene anymore? Is that still a thing?
I think so. It was definitely in the 80s, that's for sure. I remember those commercials.
Listeners, please write in. We need to know. Pantene. Can you still have a Pantene moment? If they're going to make a remake of it, are they going to have Pantene, or are they going to have to go with, I don't know, Paul Mitchell or whatever is out there these days? Here's a silly question. I think I know the answer, but is that Peter Kwong's real hair, or is that a wig?
That looks like it could be his hair.
Yeah. I'm going to say that maybe he did have long hair at the time, and maybe he's got an extension, like the hair bun on top. But yeah, that does look like his real hair.
It's pretty spectacular hair.
It is. If he did have long hair like that, you can see why they, that scene comes out of nowhere when he takes the hat off. So it's like, hey, you know what we should do?
Yeah, and then they immediately cut it, like he just ran to Macy's over at Union Square and bought this new suit too, because he immediately cuts to he's got kind of his snappy new outfit on.
That's right. Yeah. He's in his Manager of the Month Western garb. We were talking about that in the previous episode. That awesome suit with the red shirt and the striped tie. Yeah.
No, I can't remember. Was he the Manager of the Month, or was it?
He was the Manager of the Month. No, it was Rain. Yeah.
Okay. All right. No offense to Rain. He earned it. I looking over his product totals. Yeah, he's the Manager of the Month. So you get the sense that maybe there was a scene before that. It's a real sudden jump from Storm to business suit, but maybe that's the idea. It's just like, boom, hey, guess what?
Yeah, no, couldn't really. Yeah, looking at the script, it went from one to the next. But yeah, it does seem like there should have been something there.
Maybe I'm overthinking it. I just want it to be a longer movie.
Don't we all?
Yeah. And I guess after that amazing hair shake scene, I want a scene of Peter Kwong looking in a mirror, adjusting his tie, and kind of like, yeah, Manager of the Month right here. And Storm.
Then we get the view of the cool-looking spiked door that opens automatically, and we reveal the room with the golden Buddhas. And it's a perfectly centered shot. It's referred to in the Richter screenplay as the Hall of the Infernal Judge, and I see at least 24 Buddhas down there. Now the question here is, how many Buddhas does that make in the film so far?
Good question.
I have not been totaling my Buddhas. I'm sorry.
Do you have a tally?
We're kind of thinking about maybe there should be a tally made because there's going to be quite a few Buddhas coming up that get destroyed.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, listeners, if you know, if you have a chance to count the Buddhas, please tell us on the 5 minutes trouble truck stop.
Yeah, and maybe is there a prize we could offer? Is there something like you get a how about a photograph of me and Pete Mummert in front of the Chinese fortune cookie factory, or the Dragon Gates, just to show we do live in San Francisco and there really is a Chinatown. It's not a set.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? A little bag of fortune cookies from the fortune cookie factory.
Oh, there you okay. If whoever comes closest to the total, and this gives you an opportunity to totally BS because we obviously don't know. Yeah, we'll get you a bag of fortune cookies, and we'll try to mail it to you by at least sometime in 2017.
There you go. You heard it from Brett for the fortune cookies. Number of Buddhas. The comment that I had next was that Jack and Wang look remarkably dry. So I guess at the hell of the River of Ashes, either they had a blow dryer or it was pretty hot in there.
Yeah, the hot ashes. So this is also a conceit of movies. How much time has passed?
Yeah,
they could have had a nap.
Mm-hmm.
You will be taking the low pan, but first nap time.
Well, there's more going on with eyes here. Like, first of all, that door to this corridor opens up automatically, like one of those electronic eyes, I'm assuming. And then they get in there, and first of all, I don't think Jack's blindfold is working very well because he's kind of looking around anyway.
Yeah,
when they wheeled him in, and then like once they start getting ripped off, like Jack seems to see fine, and then a couple seconds later, he's like, he remembers, oh yeah, I gotta wince. And then Wayne does that really hammy, like overacting wince.
Yeah. Like he just had an eye exam.
Yeah.
They just dilated his pupils.
Oh. And we get Rain's only spoken line in the film come at this point, where Jack says, where the hell are we? And he says, you are nowhere. And that's it. He speaks a bit more in the screenplay, but nothing too interesting, really.
Well, to me, I had sort of an epiphany last night, and to me, that line might be the linchpin of the whole movie. So we'll keep that in mind. We'll try to explore that over the next.
Interesting.
All right, everybody, pay attention.
Where are you going with this? What's going on? Is he the first Storm to talk?
Yes, he is at this point in the film. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. I think there may be some grunts and groans. Definitely a lot of eye contact
and wheezes.
Yeah, so wheezes, lots of wheezes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is this scene in this room is where a lot of things come together. We have of course, once again, great work by John J. Lloyd,
mm-hmm.
Great lighting by Dean Cundy. And we're going to see in a moment. We're going to see some great makeup on a really great actor.
Indeed.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yes, because those double doors open, and here comes the little old basket case on wheels himself, Mr. David Lopan. And my first note is that it's interesting that he gets the modern electric wheelchair, while Jack and Wang are riding along on these wooden relics from the turn of the century.
Yeah. Is that? I guess they're in the wheelchairs because it's easier to wheel around. They're easier to move them around. But is it also like, before Lopan, you must be in a wheelchair? It's like an equalizer. But it's also, you're in an old wheelchair, I could almost picture Lopan. Look at my wheelchair. Your wheelchair is old and dumb. Mine has a control. Look, it's a little joystick like on a video game.
No, that's a really good point, Brett. And come to think of it, I did kind of think of that at one point, that they are, in a sense, on equal levels. Even though he's in that wheelchair, so are they. But at the same time, not as cool because they're in the old style stuff.
Yeah.
But in a sense, one question I have in these minutes, is Lopan divine or is he not? And if he's divine somehow, do they have to, is this a ritual that they have to go through to be somehow on the same plane just in order to communicate with him?
Good point. Good point. And I think that's I think maybe that's something that perplexes Lo Pan himself. Am I divine? Am I not divine? Am I, he seems a little confused. He's gonna start telling his side of the story, but what exactly is he? Is he a ghost? Is he cursed? What exactly is his status in the supernatural world? I think it's been perplexing him for 3,000 years. He's been living this way.
Yeah, no, very, very enigmatic type of situation. But before we start to really delve into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about actor James Hong, who plays Lo Pan.
Oh,
because
yeah.
He has quite a story. According to IMDb, he was born in 1929 in Minnesota to parents who emigrated from Hong Kong. And as a young man, he served in the U.S. Army, and he would entertain soldiers while he was stationed in the U.S. during the Korean War. He's been in over 500 television and film roles since he began acting in the 1950s.
Wow.
He's done everything from dubbed voices of characters in the movie Godzilla, King of the Monsters, to appearances on the TV show Kung Fu, and a brief scene in the movie Airplane. I had to go back and watch that one. And I guess when Ted Stryker is giving one of his sort of depressing monologues, he's a Japanese soldier who commits harakiri. And
he's got a great little
song.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's a
he's
quick.
got a great little role in Chinatown too.
Yes, yeah. So I have other here. Lo Pan is probably his most famous role, but he was also Brett's favorite frozen eye manufacturer, Hannibal Chew, in Blade Runner, and he was Mrs. Mulray's butler in Chinatown.
Yeah.
And then more recently, he was the voice of Mr. Ping in the animated film Kung Fu Panda and its sequels. And he continues to lend his voice talents for many animated films and TV shows. So there's James Hong for you.
Yeah.
Cool. He's still working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's, let's see. I can't recall when this one will air, but November 11th.
Actually, it's November 1st in Cerritos. He's going to be making an appearance for a screening of Big Trouble in Little China. By the time this airs, this will already have happened. But I'm going to see if I can try to head down there and meet James Hong in person.
Very great.
It'll be the second time. I was actually able to meet him when he was at the Japanese American Museum for the screening with Leah Chang and a bunch of the other actors from the film. So, but always a great opportunity to meet the people involved in the film. And James Hong is quite the legend. So, yeah,
total legend. Yeah, it's safe to say that all three of us are IMDb nuts. You might even say IMDb abusers. Yeah, when I was looking at his credits, and I go to IMDb all the time, it just keeps going and going and going. The man's had a career that spanned, I think, some 60 plus years.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been in everything and he's worked with everybody. And, it's a funny thing. I have a great kind of affinity for character actors, and I kind of feel like they're sort of distant relatives who maybe live far away, but they're always kind of staying in touch with us through roles. And there are people we've never met who have kind of impacted our life, our whole lives with just little roles here and there. And James Hong's a great example. I've been watching James Hong probably as long as I can remember. I'm imagining in the 60s he was doing, things like Mission Impossible or Man from U.N.C.L.E. or did he ever do a Star Trek? Probably not, but yeah, but seriously, folks, look up James Hong on IMDb. Your jaw will drop. And man, it's just an amazing career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And many of the roles that he takes, he is able to really just change his character and his face. And this role is certainly no exception. You have to admire the great makeup job that they did for him as the basket case on wheels. I mean, he looks old and really, really old.
Yeah.
There's actually going to be a book that's coming out. I believe it's like the art or the making of Big Trouble in Little China. And I'm sure they're going to be including pictures of how the makeup process happened to get him to look so old. I had some pictures that I was able to acquire years ago. They were just black and white Xerox copies of the process that they used to do the whole makeup sequence. And it looks like that probably must have taken hours and hours to lay on.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you figure a minimum of 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's another thing. The commitment. Getting up. Probably at 3 a.m, to be at the studio by 4 a.m, to sit in a makeup chair 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. And have we talked I guess this is really the first example we've had of, or a really like vivid example, detailed example of the makeup in this movie. And who did the makeup? Who was the chief makeup director, supervisor in this film?
Ah, that's a good question. And you caught me off guard. I did not look that one up. Hold on, let me check. I'm gonna look here. Keep talking. I'll take a look.
Wow, this is it's like his kryptonite. This is the first time. Wow, Josh we stumped Josh for once. You're still the world's greatest living authority on this movie.
It looks like there was a 3-person makeup department: Ken Chase, Steve Johnson, and Susan V. Kalinowski. Makeup supervisor and special makeup effects. Steve Johnson. I've heard that name before. I think, was it Steve Johnson who did some of the monster effects too, or am I thinking?
I'll bet you.
I think he may have done it with Richard Edlund to try to do some of the characters. So it makes sense that he would do some of the makeup for Lo Pan, just because he looks like a monster almost when he's doing this.
Okay. Yeah. And possibly, we're going to have some, some puppetry, some audio animatronics in later scenes. So maybe that was his specialty, which was, that was such a big breakthrough in the 80s, when you had, Rick Baker and like his revolutionary werewolf transformation, An American Werewolf in London, and then also, the next year in The Thing. I can't remember, did Rick Baker do the makeup in The Thing? Or was that a protege of Rick Baker?
I'm not sure. I am looking up Steve Johnson a little bit more, and he did work on American Werewolf in London. He was part of the special makeups effects crew on that one. And yeah, he was part of the creature creator crew at Boss Film Studios for Big Trouble in Little China, along with Richard Edlund.
Yeah, that rings a bell. That it was years ago. I think I read that it wasn't Rick Baker, but it was one of his assistants, one of his proteges who branched out on his own. So, in a sense, you have a little bit of Rick Baker's influence here, but this is just a great old-fashioned makeup movie, practical effects. So, kudos to Mr. Johnson.
And with that makeup on, James Hong really plays it well. I mean, he's got the shaking hands going on, the crippled look. It's a very convincing type of performance by James Hong.
Definitely.
Is this thing where he kind of puts his palsied hand up to his ear like he can't hear? Is that a put on, or do you think he really can't hear very well?
That's a good point.
I feel almost like he's toying with them, like he's putting on a little bit of an act, like to just kind of mess with them a bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
because it's the only time he does it.
Yeah, and he seems to hear just fine every other time.
Yeah, that that's an interesting point, because that's a gag that you see all the time. It's not like a Carol Burnett, Tim Conway thing. The guy who's hard of hearing.
Yeah.
And you half expect him, like Jack's going to say something and Lo Pan's going to hear it differently. But that's just the one time, and I think they were like, okay, let's keep moving. But yeah, just to go with what you guys said, it's the makeup can take you so far, but it's also the performance, the frailty that he exhibits and portrays in the chair.
I always thought that he looked really old and frail, but just the way he acts and stuff, he's a lot sharper than he seems to be. And I thought that that was just kind of to put them off guard. But later he's going to have some really snappy one-liners.
Yeah. And I thought this whole thing was kind of like he's sort of a Yoda figure. He's kind of tricking Luke. He's kind of tricking Jack. He's kind of pretending to be this decrepit old guy, but in reality, he's got a lot more power than he's letting on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're right. With the makeup, there is a certain, resemblance to Yoda. We're gonna have to do a side-by-side comparison, have a picture of Yoda and have a picture of Lo Pan. I think it's the hair. Those little tiny,
the wisps
of hair behind his ear. It's like, we could just shave those. We could just cut those off. You're not fooling anybody. They're just gross looking.
Well, we get a nice music cue for his intro. This is actually the Lo Pan theme, and we're going to hear this cue throughout the film, especially during the wedding part. Good testament to John Carpenter and to Alan Howarth.
Yeah.
So Jack, Jack's reaction to this, he seems totally perplexed. I guess he was expecting to meet the tall guy that he ran over with his truck and not this old guy with the wheelchair. And as such, he just seems to treat him with no respect, which is part of the hilarity of this whole scene.
Yeah. It comes off as almost like a parody of the classic, so we meet at last, the two adversaries. And, shall we do some verbal jousting first? Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, in a sense, I mean, this is one of Jack's cooler moments. Mm-hmm. I mean, he kind of has, I don't think it's an intentional, like, aha, you know what? I'm going to just like kind of ignore him. But, he's definitely got an edge on Lopan here, are you crazy? Is that your problem? That's one of his coolest moments.
But at the same time, Lopan is quick to put Jack in his place, with this whole "shut up, Mr. Burton."
Yeah.
So what does he mean? He says you're not brought on this world to get it. This is another question, another maybe instance where I think, does Lopan have some kind of divinity? Because he seems to know why Jack Burton was brought on this earth, like the way he says that.
Wow.
I always took it as in, you seem like you're so privileged and you think that you need to know everything, but no, you don't. But I do like that interpretation, though, that maybe he does know more about why he is here.
Wow. Well, it was cool. There's Jonathan on the Facebook group had been sort of hypothesizing that maybe Jack also has some magical powers that he just doesn't necessarily know about it. Yeah. And this is one of those lines that makes me wonder, like, is there some credence to that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there may be something, I can almost picture, Lopan meditating, or, a demon appears before him and, says, a champion will come to try to slay you, and he will have a mullet and come from Visalia.
And, have great moccasins.
Yeah. And just to make this weirder, like, this prophecy was given to Lopan like 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Like he will come from Visalia. Where's Visalia? Like,
what is this mullet you speak of?
Mullet, what's a mullet? This is really pissing me off. It makes no sense.
Though it is interesting. Notice he doesn't talk to Wang at first. He talks to Jack. I mean, he will be talking to Wang later, but Jack is the focus of this joust, this verbal jousting.
Yeah. So maybe I think Jonathan's onto something. I think there is. I think we were, and again, Desmond we were debating this. In some ways, Jack's a goofball, but he is kind of on a hero's quest of sorts. So maybe he is the chosen one. The question is, who chose him to be the chosen one?
Egg Shen, maybe?
Egg and Jack haven't had a scene together other than, in their cars.
Yeah. The one-way street
Egg.
Part,
yeah.
Hold that thought, by the way.
Hold that thought. I'm too far ahead.
Yep.
Okay.
We're going down there a little farther, hopefully later.
Another note I have about this thing, pretty much all these lines that are spoken between Jack and Lopan, it's all pretty much written that way in the W.D. Richter script. The whole "shut up, Mr. Burton," all of it. It's got that snappy Richter sense.
Yeah,
and it was
these are great one-liners.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And it was a great experience when I had a chance to watch this scene in the theater, because the audience was laughing at a lot of the different parts. It's just a different fun experience if you get a chance. I do recommend anybody who ever has a chance to see this film with an audience on the big screen. It's definitely worth it. You get a lot more.
Yeah, I agree.
So the first thing Jack asks about is his truck. And I'm wondering, was that a ploy? Was he just trying to sort of throw him off guard and, not intend to reveal the true purpose?
But it's interesting because Lopan sees right through it. Mm-hmm. He says, you're not looking for a truck. You're looking for a girl with green eyes. Mm-hmm. And then I'm wondering, is he talking about, because he's talking to Jack. He's not talking to Wang yet. And is he talking about Wang and Miao Yin, or is he talking about Gracie? Like, is he talking about Jack is actually deep down looking for Gracie?
Ah.
Yeah.
Never thought of that. But yes, could be.
Yeah. Although Lo Pan, we don't want to get too far. You know what? Screw it. Let's just do the whole movie. We're on a roll here, you guys. Let's just do try to set a record for the world's longest podcast, and just do the remaining 55 minutes. We can do this. But that said, I don't think Lo Pan has seen Gracie yet. At least not.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I don't. Again, not to be the spoiler, but when he does, he will meet Gracie in a few minutes, and I think there'll be a sort of dragon green eyes. But that hasn't happened yet. That's the future, and this is the present.
And unless this is an example of Lo Pan being able to see into if he's divine, he's able to see.
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe he has a vision of, some girl with green eyes that Jack is after, but doesn't know exactly who it is. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, which might be why he's addressing Jack instead of, Wang, who he doesn't see as a worthy adversary yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, this is just getting deeper and deeper.
Yeah. But then he does have like that, I think this is a credit to James Hong. He has kind of a tender moment when he does finally address Wang. He's sort of like, he could be, Uncle Lo Pan. He's like, so tell me about the girl. That wonderful half-hearted attempt to be warm, like putting what would probably be a cold, clammy hand on Wang's hand. It's like, tell me, where's she from? Is she a local girl? I think there is a little bit of sincerity, like whatever humanity is left in Lo Pan, he sees a fellow countryman. Yeah, he's very adversarial with Jack, you round-eyed devil you with the mullet. But then with Wang, it's like, maybe that's one reason why at this point they're alive.
Yeah.
Is it's not because of Jack. It's okay. Hey, the kid. Okay, let's see what this is about. And maybe he does really want to. Let's just ask Wang, what's she like? Where's she from? What's her favorite color?
I had a bunch of questions about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm kind of a history nut, so I was really curious about some of the questions he asked. Like, first of all, when he said he's not going to waste another 2,000 years, and I was curious, like, what was going on in China 2,000 years ago when Lo Pan was born, and that was when the Han Dynasty was cementing its rule over kind of a unified China. And one of the things the Han Dynasty did was move into the Hunan province and sort of start to take over. And one of the first things he asks is she from Hunan? Is she from Hunan province? Which will come up, 1,000 years later, actually almost 2,000 years after that. There's something in the Hunan province called the Miao Rebellion, where the people of the Hunan province rebel against the Han Dynasty, which is what apparently Lo Pan would be a part of. Oh. So I think it's cool that there's so much history in this that you could tease out. But I think someone did their homework. Yeah,
because you have Miao Yin, and like, is it spelled the same?
Yeah, the Miao Rebellion is spelled exactly like Miao Yin.
Oh. Interesting.
So, and Miao he suspects from the Hunan province.
Yes. Well, Richter certainly was doing a lot of homework when he was coming up with this script. I remember reading about that, many different reference books of Chinese history and mythology. So that's cool that there is an actual reference to some of this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some, and it's like the Han Dynasty was also sort of in charge of opening up the Silk Road, or, they were the ones that sort of really opened it up with Western Asia and then on into Europe and Africa. And so it's like Lo Pan has actually been in the import-export business for like 2,000 years. It's no wonder everything in this warehouse is so dusty. Like, he's had this stuff for a long time.
I could see in the Chinese on the side of the building, it says, serving customers since 2000 BCE.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's cool. There's one thing I want to kind of talk about here. At the point in the scene where they talk about the girl with the green eyes, the screenplay actually has an extra cutout little comedy bit with Lo Pan. And if you go back in these 5 minutes to about a minute in, if you look carefully, you notice that the picture on one of the monitors behind Lo Pan is scrambled. And in the cut scene, Lo Pan notices this before he starts talking to them about green eyes, and then he pounds on the monitor with his fist, and that fixes the picture. And then at that point, he mutters Japanese. And then Wang says, the girl? And then Lo Pan says, no, this foolish TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's, there's a line, Lo Pan has a line coming up that kind of echoes that, or, same thematic vibe. You get the sense that, he's a supernatural supervillain, but he's also a beleaguered CEO. And, you kind of see, the inner workings of the Wing Kong. It's just like any other corporation, crummy equipment, mismanagement, bad employees, and that's an interesting kind of tie into Buckaroo Banzai and, Yo-Yo Dine, another evil, malevolent organization, but, just run like any other company, like bureaucratic mismanagement and, bad coffee and bad coffee breaks. And, there's sort of this.
And a lot of people named John.
Yeah, a lot of people named John. I bet you if W.D. Richter was with us right now, we could probably all talk. We could all joke about, various evil organizations like Spectre and how, they must have a real lousy retirement plan, and you don't get vacations.
The henchman dental plan, not cutting it for them.
Yeah, exactly. So that's those two movies. There's a link there that the evil, nefarious organization is just as crummy as anybody else.
Yeah.
I have a note here that Jack calls Lo Pan Dave for the first time here.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. The whole casualness between Jack and Lo Pan is just great. He says a line earlier. It's like, come on, beggars can't be choosers. All this stuff. It's just hilarious.
Yeah.
He's over the top with the John Wayne thing in this sequence too.
Yeah.
Like every one-liner, he kind of has that. He does the twang. He does the kind of the squint. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is one of Jack's secret weapons, that with that swagger and that arrogance, when you're up against, an evil supervillain adversary, it's like, yeah, whatever. He's just not gonna blink.
Well, maybe Lo Pan was being literal when he said you were not brought on this earth to get it. Maybe Jack's secret, like superpower, is that he doesn't get it, and therefore he's not intimidated because he just doesn't understand.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I think it is, ignorance can be armor.
Yeah.
His superpower is being monumentally naive.
Yeah. There's not believing in something, but then there's, not knowing about something. So, and that's pretty much Jack. He doesn't know what's going on, but I think in some ways that works to his advantage. He doesn't know who Lo Pan is, so he can't be afraid of him.
Yeah.
And so he just, who is this guy? What? Whatever,
Sure thing, Dave.
Yeah. I'd like to see you pull this off in Visalia.
And then for those of you guys who are doing the drinking game of Big Trouble in Little China, you get to take a shot here because we're talking about the hell where people are skinned alive. It's that simple, understand?
Yeah.
That great extra line at the end there. Again, another point for Lo Pan. Just great performance by James Hong.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's that tone of the beleaguered boss. Do you get it now? Very much like, I need that report done by Friday or else it's the hell of being skinned alive. Do you understand that?
Yes.
But I'm curious what because each one of the hells was, you would go into the hell to sort of be purified and punished for specific actions that you did. So I wonder what it was that Jack did that has Lo Pan wanting to send him to this specific one at this point.
Well, he's wearing.
Or is he just being arbitrary? Is he? Yeah.
Well, he's wearing moccasins, which are made from the skin of a calf. So there's the tie-in, right? Skinned alive. I don't know.
It works. That's fine. Pass. That has now become canon. We're branding that into the leather book.
There it is.
It's official.
But James Hong is able to just turn on a dime when it comes to his acting. He was doing that, and then he plays up the pathos when Lo Pan explains his situation, and you almost feel sorry for the guy. I mean, 2,000 years he's in this old man's crippled body. You almost feel, geez, that would kind of suck.
Yeah, and as I recall, doesn't he describe? He's a young man trapped in this body.
Right.
So it's having, kind of having an awareness of who you are, who you were. But yeah, he's just been imprisoned in his own hell.
Yeah. He gives a little bit of a biography about himself too. He says he's a young man, he's a king, and he's a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I guess back to the question: is he divine? Because the emperor, the king in China, was always considered a divinity, and so he seems to be saying that he was a king at some point.
Well, from what I was reading a little bit on the history of Lo Pan, that apparently he was almost like a false emperor. Like he was trying to show that he was the emperor, and then when the emperor was out or he was wounded in battle or something, and then when the real emperor came back, then he was really upset, and that's why he was banished and cursed, if I'm reading it right. Yeah.
Okay. So he was a usurper.
Yeah.
You could see him making intrigue and in a sense trying to stage a coup, and and then when the coup goes south, it ain't never good.
Mm-hmm.
It usually means a curse, being sent to a hell of not having a body or something like that.
But then based on those lines, so I wonder, so is his normal form, I would assume is the the 10-foot tall Roblox version of Lo Pan. So when he was cursed, was he then just thrown into this old man's body? It's not like he got older and aged like that over 2,000 years.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, what's worse? Suddenly being trapped in an old man's body, or just the hell of old age. And we are looking at what I assume is not 100-year-old man, not a 101-year-old man, but a 2,000-year-old man.
Right. Yeah.
He's he ain't pretty to look at, folks. Sorry. He's evil Yoda.
But I do love how Lo Pan constantly will call Jack Mr. Burton. He's very formal about that. Never calls him Jack.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's a nod to like your classic, James Bond kind of encounter with the soup. There's always that politeness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's ever been an adversary who's called him James or Jim or anything like that. It's always Mr. Bond. It's always that formality. Mm-hmm. And so I think this is kind of a nod to, those kind of, again, these verbal sparring matches. So Mr. Bond, so Mr. Patton. But then, again, Jack ain't playing that. He's not going to play the Sean Connery, Roger Moore thing. He's like, come on, what is this? Really? Is that the thing, Dave?
And I also thought it was that, and the fact that if he comes from if he was once royalty, he also has sort of the court manners. He knows, he addresses people in a royal manner.
Ooh, yeah, that's really interesting because I think to Lo Pan, Jack's a barbarian. He comes from the country. He's an oaf. He does not come from a family. He probably does not come from a family of any note or worth. So and yet, like we said earlier, he's sort of focused on the big tall guy with the mullet. There's something about him that Lo Pan is like, okay, you're the guy.
And then we get to the line. We get to the part where he talks about how he's going to go off and rule the universe from beyond the grave. And at first, you think that Jack is actually buying into all this. You think he gets it. He's like, oh, yeah, you're going to go and rule the universe from beyond the grave. And Lo Pan, in his giddiness, he thinks that finally, Jack gets it, and he lets out his "indeed" line. And the intonation of hearing that, this was the thing that got me to love this movie. Just that one line that James Hong says. I remember watching that in the hotel room so many years ago and was just rolling at that point. Me and my brother, who we were both watching, we were just hearing that and it was like, oh. But then the line that comes after that is great too, where Jack says, he doesn't believe it at that point. Oh, check into a psycho ward, whichever comes first. Huh?
Yeah. Because he's completely not going to play the game. He's just like, he definitely has the upper hand here. He's not good with a gun or with a knife, but in a verbal sparring match, he's just going to be, he's he's not even going to play the quip game. He's just going to say, or a psycho-ward. That kind of takes the air out of your sails,
Uh-huh.
And Lopan's scowl at that point is priceless. Yeah.
And Wang talks about, because he's talking about he's going to rule the universe, and then Wang brings up Qing Dai, the god of the East.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious if that's a real thing, and I didn't find like a real Qing Dai, but there is a real Shang Di, which sounds almost like one could be a corruption of the other, who was the supreme deity in ancient China. And I thought it was interesting because if you look at the hierarchy of gods, there was Shang Di, or perhaps Qing Dai, like Wang says, at the very top, and right underneath him was the emperor, the king, who was divine, which is perhaps Lo Pan. And then if you look a level below that, you've got the natural deities like rain and thunder. And it's cool because, like, if you do that, you kind of end up with the entire hierarchy of the Wing Kong place here.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah, it probably is the same thing, just a different way of pronouncing it, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't. It's good. I'm floored by how much research like they did when they made this, because you can get so much out of every line.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because I was just talking to somebody this week about a different film, but if you have that root of fact, of reality, that you can go off and create whatever you want, but as long as you have that some foundation in reality, it just makes a huge difference. If I think if you're watching a movie and you're listening to the dialogue, sometimes you can get that sense of, oh, they're just making this up, this isn't real, this is just this is just BS. But sometimes you're watching, say, a horror movie or a fantastic film, and at the heart of it there is a reality, or somebody has simply done their homework. So like you have a name that's a real deity or supernatural figure or whatever, and it gives it that solid foundation. It really does make a difference. And I think, like, when you're involved in that project and maybe in your notes you have that background, so it's not just a screenwriter who got really high.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does lend to the overall authenticity of the film. And I know that Carpenter, he made a point of trying to make sure that, he was hiring a lot of these Asian and Asian American actors, and this wasn't going to be your traditional sort of chopsaki type film. And it's good. It shows in the film, and it was an admirable effort, I think.
Yeah, I think we've said it before, but it's worth saying again. This is a movie. Yeah, it's a comedy. It's fantastic. It's a fantasy, but there's a lot of authentic culture it's rooted in. And I think that's one thing that gives it such strength, and makes it a movie that a bunch of nerds are talking about every week.
Yeah, it's a much richer world. It's a giant real universe that you can you can go beyond the movie, and there's still something there.
Yeah, and as Desmond said a couple of weeks ago, this was the movie that got him interested in Chinese mythology and the supernatural. And he's he's really into like Chinese ghost stories and magic and all that. And I think that there's something to be said for a movie that's a fantasy, but it does inspire you to get interested in the real thing. I think, Pete, with you and Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think that was what really ignited your interest in archaeology, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then just before we leave Lo Pan's domain, just one final note about this: the two lines that we hear from Jack and Lo Pan, not in the script. I wonder if they were ad-libbed, and they're great lines where he just says, 2,000 years and you can't find one broad to fit the bill. Come on, Dave, you must be doing something seriously wrong. Yeah, great line. And then Lo Pan later, when he sees on the monitors, and he says, "This really pisses me off to no end."
Yeah,
it's great stuff.
Yeah, it's like I kind of alluded to this earlier. It's like he breaks character. He's being very much, the sinister supervillain. He's like a Bond villain almost, but then he has this like beleaguered boss moment.
Yeah,
he's like, "Come on." Yeah. And like that Jack's line, it's like he's calling him on, hey, the ship is not running quite the tight ship you pretend to, are you? He's Jack has a way of just seeing Lopan's weaknesses and just kind of, pointing out publicly. It's like, you didn't have
taunts him right up to the end. Like Lopan's backing out of the room and Jack's like, come on, stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He is a thorn in his side.
Yes, he is. Then we move back to the Wing Kong lobby, and we're at the point now when it looks like Gracie, Eddie, and Margot are trying to get in. A bunch of really pulpy lines from Gracie threatening the guards with bad publicity while Margot fumbles for her recorder.
Uh-huh.
I think this answers a question our friend Tom Taylor had a couple of weeks ago. And, that's, what's the reporter character doing there? Well, so Gracie can say she's a reporter and the pen is mightier than the sword.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's why Margot's there, is to threaten the security guard.
And I like it's
the press.
mightier than your sword. Like she makes it so personal.
Yeah.
And then as like an afterthought, she's like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But even Margot seems to see that as like sort of a phallic line, because as soon as Gracie says it, Margot like jerks her head and it's like, what? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then she starts looking for her pen to kind of back it up. So that is why Margot's there for that one moment.
That's her point. But then we get a laugh, and we get Thunder with his one of a few lines, but I can help you, complete with Count Von Count cartoon thunderclap sound effect.
Yeah. And once again, Carter Wong and that huge crazy smile of his. I just love that. If you have one line and one close up in a movie, that's it. He makes it work. And then he has the cigar. He's like a Chinese Schwarzenegger there.
He's looking very stylish in that suit, the neat haircut.
Yeah.
Looking good.
So, shirt looks kind of like it's made out of a circus tent. I like that stripes. It's cool.
Yeah. So here's a question. Here's a question for you guys. Something I was thinking about. Are the storms, are they supernatural beings who have come down to the earth and taken on some kind of human form? Or are they Wing Kong employees who have become possessed and, have taken on the powers of these storms? Because, we at this point, we've seen them, in their magical costumes as the storms. And now we've seen both Rain and Thunder in really sharp business suits. And, the employee of the month.
Yeah.
So that
it would be backed up by that. Yeah.
Yeah. Are they, like, I can picture the scene where Lopan summons them and they come to Earth and they're looking around and, you will do my bidding and you will also be in charge of shipment. Here, this is called a suit and tie. Suit and tie. Okay. Or was it, he calls these three guys. When you make employee of the month, and it's like, I'm going to reward you with storm powers.
Come to think of it, that may make a little bit more sense, because if Lopan has been around for 2,000 years, he's probably had, various needs of these storms, and maybe they've come to bad ends, but then they reappear as different characters. So maybe that it could be something there. Sure.
Yeah. And again, I think it's just, Richter's look at, the inner workings of a nefarious evil organization. Employee of the month. Well, sure. Yeah, I guess that helps. And, just that, somebody has to clean up around here. And apparently somebody isn't doing a good job at cleaning up. Because it does seem like the Wing Kong and Yoyodyne are just filthy places to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we get our last little scene as part of these 5 minutes. We see Jack and Wang back in the wheelchairs, blindfolded, and they're wheeled up this long ramp into the skeleton room.
So this was a scene that gave me an epiphany.
Okay.
This is so earlier I was saying when Rain says you are nowhere, and it kind of started triggering something, is because Lopan talks about how he's kind of in a purgatory, between living and dead, and he's just kind of waiting until he can basically find what the gods told him he needs in order to have a human life again. And then when you look at the idea of Chinese hell, it's someplace where you're sent in order to atone for stuff in your life so you can be reborn. And here we have Jack and Wang being pushed up these old-timey, in these old-timey wheelchairs up the ramp into another Chinese hell. And it's as if Lopan is giving them the opportunity to atone for something in life and to be reborn. But what this made me suddenly think is, are Jack and Wang actually dead?
Whoa.
And if they died, what happened? And so my theory now is that Jack and Wang died when they're driving up that alleyway and they crash head on into Egg Shin's bus.
Okay.
And the reason, because before that point in the movie, everything is pretty straightforward. Like there's no magic, unless you count Egg Shin's kind of sharper image thing, but that might also be Jack kind of imagining that to feel less guilty about killing Egg Shin. And so but once that they perhaps die, that's when things start to get really weird. It's like they immediately enter this sort of underworld where everything's kind of strange and magical. And from that point on, everything just gets weirder and weirder. But the thing is, Jack and Wang never end up facing their punishment, so they're never able to be reborn. So what you've got is Jack like spending the rest of eternity kind of wandering the earth like as his truck driver, because he never like got his atonement he needed to be reborn.
Wow.
Got an extra hour? Yeah. You could say maybe Jack has Lopan's curse. You're gonna, like as you just said, he's gonna wander around in his truck for eternity.
Mm-hmm.
He might end up with no body and stuck as an old man seeking flesh. But and then meanwhile, in the next 5 minutes, this is where we see Wang slowly but surely take front and center as an action hero.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Up to this point, he's been a fun-loving sidekick, a slightly older, slightly taller short round. But once they get out of this chamber in the next 5 minutes, we see, that's a really good point, especially with Wang. I think Wang is reborn. This is the beginning of the new Wang, the reborn Wang, the true warrior. Mind and spirit are as one. And I would maybe speculate that in the death trap maybe they drowned.
Yeah, that was I thought you were going to go there, Pete. That when they were in that elevator and it filled with water and they were crashing around, that they drowned. And then when they're in the room with the upside down sinners up there, that was their afterlife. That's interesting too.
That's another possibility. Yeah, because there's still not, like, before they drown, there's still not a lot about this movie that's super magical or that seems like it might be supernatural.
Yeah, but you're right. With the truck, the truck crash, if they crashes into Egg's bus, a wizard, a magician, and they're dead, that's when they go in. You're right, Pete. That's when they go into the alley, and that's when things start to get bat blank crazy. Should I just say it so we get the air horn? Bat crazy. Bat crazy. There we go, because we love that air horn. And I don't think we've had a chance to use the air horn yet. Right. By the way, as a side thing, Jerry did not break the air horn record. I think that might have been Desmond and Audra. We can go back and count. Jerry's a close second, but I think it might have been like, Jerry and Tom's episode. I think we had maybe 4 to 6 air horns, and I think we had like 8 or 9 with Desmond and Audra. Again, viewers, listeners, count the air horns in these 2 episodes.
I feel like maybe Jerry didn't bring his A game. Then I'm a little disappointed.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I would have to say maybe just Desmond and Audra. They just were, they were ready to play, and
they were channeling something. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, that is our 5 minutes of trouble for this week. Thanks very much, Pete, for coming on. And
thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we're really excited to hear about the next chapter in the Indiana Jones Minute saga. When are you guys going to be starting up Temple of Doom?
We have absolutely no idea. we're sort of hashing that out right now, but it's coming. I don't know how soon, but it'll be back soon.
Before that happens, Pete, you and I have to take a short road trip up to in the Bay Area, there are a number of tiny locations. ILM would go to a place in the Bay Area to do a pickup shot, and and Temple of Doom, there's no exception. The I just blanked on what's the general in Temple of Doom? General Lao Che. His his airline where it's based is not too far from San Francisco. If we go up to north to Novato, at the old Hamilton Air Force Base, that's where that scene was filmed. So we got to do a location expedition up there.
Maybe we should do a Big Trouble meetup somewhere around too, like walk around, do a walking tour of Chinatown.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the prize.
Chinatown.
Yeah. Again, that's one of the prizes. When you do a correct answer, you'll get a picture of me and Pete at a Big Trouble in Little China location. Isn't that exciting?
Nice. Well, all right, guys. Let me just do the final things of business here. Please visit us at 5minutesoftrouble.com. You can check us out on Facebook at 5 Minutes of Trouble and join the 5 Minutes of Trouble truck stop to discuss this episode or any other things Big Trouble in Little China. We're also on Twitter at 5 Minutes Trouble. And we ask if you could please tell your friends about this podcast, give us a nice rating on iTunes. I also wanted to thank our friends over at the Star Wars Minute and, of course, the Indiana Jones Minute. 2 great podcasts, and go and check them out. So that pretty much wraps it up. Any final thoughts, guys?
Yeah. Pete, are you tired of being in the back seat? You want to drive? Tom got to drive.
No, I'm good. I like crawling around here on the back of the truck.
Yeah, it's comfy back there. It's comfy. Okay. Well, let us know if you want to. We pull over. We can go in an In-N-Out burger or something.
Yeah,
like
maybe
that.
toss me back one of those giant submarine sandwiches.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Here, hold on. Here you go.
Well, what about you, Brett? You wanna sign off for us this week?
Oh, I wasn't ready. I'd probably send us off the road. So no, I'm gonna next week. I'll hand it over to you for now because I don't know. I wasn't ready.
All right. Well, I was born ready, and this is the Podcast Express signing off. Tune in next week for another 5 Minutes of Trouble.
5 Mummerts of Trouble.